Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivano Dari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivano Dari Sodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Sodanandana Jasodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Prabhujakacharya Astatirsa Shishimad. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Anantakota Vaishnuni Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopya Samakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shivan Davadam Ki Jai Shri Maya Parnavidam Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai The Divine Appearance Day of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai All glories to the devotees, all glories to the devotees, all glories to the devotees, all glories, Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So this being the most auspicious appearance day of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we're going to read from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 1, text number 2. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gauranga Pushpavantau Chitra Sandau Tamonudhau. How is it? Oh, Vande. Oh, go ahead. You chant. Just chant. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahoditau Gauranga Pushpavantau Chitta Sandau Tamonudhau. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gauranga Pushpavantao Chitta Sandao Tamoditao Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sahodito Gauranga Pushpavantao Chitta Sandao Tamoditao Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gauranga Pushpavantao Chitta Sandao Tamoditao Vande. I offer respectful obeisances Shri Krishna Chaitanya to Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda and to Lord Nityananda Saha Uditao simultaneously arisen Gauda Udhaye on the eastern horizon of Gauda Pusavantao the sun and moon together Chitrao wonderful Sandao bestowing benediction Tamanudhao dissipating darkness. Translation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna, Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. Om Yanatamurandasya Gyanandana Salakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Mukham Krutavatalam Pungunong Hayate Garim Yat Kripa Taraham Bande Sri Gurum Dinataralam Vanchakapatubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. When the sun goes down and it's a full moon, the full moon is rising. Every time. It's amazing. Huh? When there's a full moon, the sun sets, the full moon is rising. Tonight we'll see that. The sun is going down, the full moon will rise. But only in the case of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda are the full moon and the sun rising simultaneously. When there's a dark night, when there's no moon, I've had this experience in Australia. We have a farm there, New Govardhan. You put your hand in front of your face, you can't see your hand. You can't see anything. So Krishna gives us the sun, the moon, but when there's a full moon, it's amazing how much you can see. There's no sun, but you can see so much with the moonlight. So Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, they simultaneously arisen to spread light, to give us the light of Krishna consciousness, devotional service. It's described that there's 4 reasons why Lord Chaitanya descended. There's esoteric, internal reasons, and there's external. The first one is to relish the position of Radharani. And what is her position? Her position is as the greatest devotee. So Lord Chaitanya came as the greatest devotee. 2, understand the transcendental mellow of himself. 3, to experience the bliss of Srimati Radharani. And 4, to spread the Sankirtan mission. So Lord Chaitanya, he came to spread the chanting of Hare Krishna all around the world, actually. Pitiviti achiyatin nagaradigram sarvatra pachoy morinam. That the name of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will be spread to every town and village throughout the world. So he is known as the most merciful incarnation of Krishna. And that is exemplified by the deliverance of Jagai and Madai. Jagai and Madai, they were actually born in very nice Brahmin families, but due to bad association, see, association is very important. They were nice Brahmana boys, but bad association, they became bad. And they committed so many sins. It's described their sins that we even haven't heard of. They're so sinful, can't imagine. So sinful. Drunkards and killing people and very, very degraded. But Lord Chaitanya, out of his causeless mercy, he instructed Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur to go door to door and preach Krishna consciousness. Bolo Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Koro Krishna Siksha. Chant the names of Krishna. Worship Krishna. Follow the instructions of Krishna. So imagine the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's going door to door, preaching. Chant Hare Krishna. Worship Krishna. Follow the instructions of Krishna. And Lord Brahma, Haridas Thakur. And some people, they would accept, yes, thank you so much. And they would invite them in and give them prasadam and, oh, thank you so much. But some people, go away, don't bother us, go get a job, no. They weren't received very nicely. Imagine the bad karma there. So they were going out daily and preaching, and they would go back to Lord Chaitanya and they would report, Sankirtan report. It's like we go out and distribute books and it's reported the next day. So they would go and they would report to Lord Chaitanya. One day they went out and they saw a crowd. And they said, what is this? What is happening here? And they said, oh, this is Jagai and Madai. They were born in very nice Brahmin families, but they became very degraded, very sinful. And they're the fear of the town. Drunkards, and killing people, and doing all nonsense. So Lord Nityananda thought, oh, if we can make them devotees, then the glories of Lord Chaitanya will be spread throughout the land. So they went and they preached Bolo Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Koro Krishna Shiksha to Jagai and Madai. And they were drunken. They looked up with red eyes and catch them! Catch them! So they went running after them. And Lord Chaitanya, or Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, they're running. And they're laughing. Because they're joking. That now, Haridas Thakur is saying, now we're going to lose our life because of your bold preaching. And there's this laughing, as though it's something serious. So they went to Lord Chaitanya, did their report that they had met these two rogues, Jagai and Madai, very sinful. And Lord Chaitanya said, just by the desire of the two of you that they be delivered, they're already delivered. And Haridas Thakur said, but they're so intoxicated, so sinful. Lord Chaitanya said, yeah, it's natural that, Lord Nityananda, he goes and he's also intoxicated. So he goes and he preaches to those who are intoxicated. So Lord Chaitanya said that they were practically delivered already by the desire of the two of them. So the next day they went out again, preaching, and again they saw Jagai and Madai. But this time, Madai, he grabbed a clay pot, very demoniac. He didn't like devotees preaching. So he took this clay pot and he hit him on the head. And blood is coming. So devotees went and they told Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya came and he saw his Nitai with blood, covered with blood. So what did he do? Chakra! 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 And it's described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat that they saw the chakra. They could see the chakra. And they're like, you can imagine. So Lord Nityananda said, no, Lord Chaitanya, please. Jagai saw that Madai was going to hit me again. And he stopped him. Please, be merciful. As soon as Lord Chaitanya heard those words, he picked up Jagai and he embraced him. Imagine such mercy. Yeah. So he was Jagai was in ecstasy. He went into ecstasy. And it's described that Lord Chaitanya's body became blackish. Like Krishna. Oh. So then, so Jagai, he was in ecstasy upon getting this embrace by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it's described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat that he revealed to him his four-armed form. So he got the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But then Madai said, but Lord, everything that I did, Jagai, he also did. So please, I also need this mercy. No. You offended my Nitai. You greatly offended my Nitai. The only way you can be delivered is you have to get the mercy of Lord Nityananda. You have to beg for forgiveness for your great offense. So dandavats, he paid dandavats to Lord Nityananda and begged for forgiveness. And Lord Nityananda, he's also very merciful. So he forgave him. And then they were both very remorseful about their sinful activities, and they became devotees. And he embraced him also. Did he embrace him also? I don't remember. But anyway, upon both of them becoming devotees, Lord Chaitanya's body became dark, and the devotees were looking at him. And he said, why are you looking at me like that? Lord, you become blackish like Krishna. He said, oh, this is because of the sins of Jagai and Madai. So then he said, now chant Hare Krishna. So everybody started chanting Hare Krishna. Everybody started chanting. And then he became golden hued again from the sins. So this is the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that Jagai and Madai, so sinful, became devotees. So now Srila Prabhupada, he comes and makes so many jug-eyes and mud-eyes devotees, and still making devotees from book distribution. He reasons ill who say the Vaishnavas die while still living in sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living spread the holy name around. So he's still making so many jug-eyes and mud-eyes devotees. So the reason that Lord Chaitanya is known as the most merciful incarnation of Krishna is because Lord Chaitanya is not just Krishna, he's also Srimati Radharani. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. And Srimati Radharani is known as the tender-hearted counterpart of Krishna. So she's very compassionate. So this is why Lord Chaitanya is so merciful, because it's the combined form of Radha and Krishna. So this incident happened in Navadvip. So after some time, Lord Chaitanya, he decided that he wanted to take sannyas. And he did. He took sannyas. He cut his beautiful hair to the great remorse of all the devotees, because his very beautiful black hair. So then he was going to go to Jagannath Puri, but the devotees said to him that, Lord, there's a war going on now between two states. This is dangerous. Many obstacles. So Lord Chaitanya, he said, how can a situation without obstacles ever come? And Advaita Acharya said, obstacles are your servants. Which of them has the power to stop you? So obstacles are there in the material world. Just like, and so many devotees are so powerful that they're able to overcome so many obstacles. Just like Prabhupada, he's so glorious because there were so many obstacles he had to cross over. I mean, imagine if another scenario was there of Prabhupada, that he met a very wealthy man that gave him a ticket to America and a lot of money, and immediately he took his flight, got his flight to America, and he had all this money, and he built a huge temple there, and the glory wouldn't be there. I mean, that what he went through is just like, it's just amazing. So this is the glory of Srila Prabhupada. So to overcome obstacles is what makes devotees glorious. Machchita sarvadogani matprasada tarishasi atacha tongahankaram nashoshasi vanangshasi. Krishna says, if you become conscious of me, you'll cross over all the obstacles on your path to pure devotional service. If, however, you act out of false ego, you don't hear me, then you'll be lost. So this is the nature of this world, that obstacles are there. So Lord Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya, he's God. What obstacles can get in his way? So he went to Jagannath Puri. And when he went there, he first went to the temple, and he saw Lord Jagannath, and he went into complete ecstasy. And he just went wild, And there was guards there. They were going to beat him because you can't go into the temple and act in a wild way. He just went into complete ecstasy. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was there as well, and he was astounded just seeing Lord Chaitanya, this tall form, golden form of Lord Chaitanya. So he told the guards, no, leave him. And then Lord Chaitanya went into complete Mahabhav. He fainted. in ecstasy. And there was no symptom of life. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he got some cotton and he put it next to his nose and he could see that he's still alive. Otherwise, there was no life symptom. So he told the guards, pick him up, take him to my home. And took him to his home. And then the devotees arrived. They actually had come a little later because Lord Chaitanya was upset that Lord Nityananda had broken his danda. So he was upset. Yeah, I'll just go by myself. So then they came later. And they eventually found out where he was. And he was still unconscious. For many hours he was unconscious. The devotees were chanting very loudly. So eventually he became conscious again. And he saw Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya there. And he was pleased to see him. He said, actually, I've come to see you. Now, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was a great scholar. He was the scholar of King Prataparudra. He was the main scholar there in Jagannath Puri. And he was famous all over India as a great scholar. So Lord Chaitanya went there to make him a devotee. And Lord Chaitanya is a very good preacher. He asked Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to explain the Atmarama verse. And he explained it. Great scholar. And he didn't think there was any further explanation to be made. But Lord Chaitanya explained it further. I think 61 times. In 61 different ways. And he was astounded. I mean, Jagannath, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was just astounded. And hearing that, this can't be a human being to do that. So then he wanted to preach to him because he's a young sannyasi. Generally young sannyasis, they don't make it, as we've seen in our society. So he would regularly preach to sannyasis. He was famous. So after speaking or teaching, giving the teachings to Lord Chaitanya, he said, "You haven't said anything. Do you understand what I'm saying?" He said, "Yes, I understand what you're saying, but you're not giving the proper conclusion." "Oh, okay, then you explain." So then he explained. And he was convinced that this personality, he must be the Supreme Lord. And then eventually he revealed, and he showed him his 6-arm form to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So he became a great devotee by the preaching of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And one day, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he invited Lord Chaitanya to his home for lunch. So him and his wife made a feast for Lord Chaitanya. But there was a problem. That he had a son-in-law that was a little envious. So when Lord Chaitanya came, he sat down and his wife was serving prasadam to Lord Chaitanya. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was at the door with a stick. Just in case his son-in-law came, Namoga, he was going to beat him. Now generally, relations between a father-in-law and a son-in-law, they're nice, But this person was so envious. I mean, must have been really envious for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to be at the door with a stick to beat him. You can imagine. So his wife is serving out prasadam to Lord Chaitanya, And at one point he sees that she needs some help. So he becomes a little inattentive in his guard duty, and he goes and he starts helping his wife serve prasadam. So then Amoga comes, sticks his head through the door, and sees all this prasadam being served to Lord Chaitanya. And he said, "What is this? What kind of a sannyasi is this? That's enough prasad for 10 people. What kind of a sannyasi is this?" So when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya heard this, he looked at Amoga with such anger that if fire were able to come out of his eyes, he would have been burnt. You know? And that happened one time in Krishna Lila. Who was that? Muchukunda. You know, he had this desire to sleep because he had been fighting for so long on the side of the demigods that then they gave him a benediction. He said, "I just want to sleep. I just want to sleep." You know? And if anybody disturbs me, then the fire will come out. So that's actually how he died. When he was woken up, he just burned him. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was like that. He wanted to just sizzle him. So when Amoga saw the anger of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he went running. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he got his stick and he went chasing him. Of course, he's an elderly gentleman, so he couldn't catch him. So he went back, and he's lamenting. He's lamenting like anything. And he tells Lord Chaitanya, "Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please, I'm so sorry that you've come to my home and you've been insulted in this way." And so Lord Chaitanya said, no, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. He's right, I shouldn't be eating so much. You know? It's not a big deal. It's okay. But they were so distraught, and his wife started hitting her chest, and she said, "May my daughter become a widow." She wanted him to just die. Yeah. Both of them wanted that. They were just so upset. So Lord Chaitanya went back to his residence. The next day, Gopinathacharya, the brother-in-law of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who went to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he asked how they're doing, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and his wife. What was her name? Her name? I forgot her name. Anyway, she's also a great Vaishnavi. So Gopinathacharya said, "Oh, they're still fasting. They fasted all the day before, and they're still fasting." So Lord Chaitanya said, "Oh, why are they taking this so seriously? It's not such a big thing." And Amoga, how is Amoga? Amoga, he's dying of cholera. So Lord Chaitanya said, "Take me to him." So he was taken to the place where Amoga was on his deathbed. And Lord Chaitanya said to Amoga, "Amoga, the heart of a Brahmana is a very nice, clean place, suitable for Krishna to sit. Why have you allowed this chandala of envy to sit in your heart, making it not a nice place? But because you are the son-in-law of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, I'm going to give mercy to you." So he took his hand. Lord Chaitanya, he had a very big hand. it's described that his hand was so big that with just he could pick up enough rice to feed 2 Bengalis. And you know, Bengalis, they could eat a lot of rice, so he could pick up enough one hand to feed 2 Bengalis. So he took it, he put it on his chest, and he said, Amoga, chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Immediately Amoga jumped out of his deathbed, and he started chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And he's dancing. He's dancing in ecstasy. And tears are flowing from his eyes. He's feeling quivering in his body. And then he starts slapping his face as hard as he could. He's slapping, not like I'm slapping, softly like this. But I mean really slapping. It's so much so that his face became swollen. And then Gopinath Acharya, he grabbed his hand to restrain him. You know, and he's saying that this mouth has blasphemed the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he's slapping like that. So he became a great devotee by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or the mercy of Sarvam Bhattacharya. So there's hope for us also, because we're all either sons or grandsons of Srila Prabhupada, who was such a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Such a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya. It's inconceivable. It's like Prabhupada, I think it was in 1975, he went to Mexico. And then he went to Venezuela. And there was already so many devotees in these temples. Venezuela, Mexico. And then he went to, now in Venezuela, Gaur Nitai was there. Then he went to Atlanta. Gaur Nitai is there. And in Miami also, he went to Miami before he went to Gaur Nitai is there. Beautiful Gaur Nitai. Prabhupada had never been there before. And Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda are already there with all devotees. I mean, that's Shakti. That's potency. So when he goes to Atlanta, there's so many devotees. And he says, this is the best temple. But what happened was devotees were coming from all over the country to see Prabhupada. He thought there was just those devotees there at that temple. But he was so ecstatic. Then he started chanting this Parama Karuna Bahudvijana. And he couldn't continue. He went into ecstasy. That's a famous lecture. He spoke for I think 2 minutes, and then he couldn't speak anymore. He was in total ecstasy. Yeah. So he is very dear to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then, Lord Chaitanya, after some time of being in Jagannath Puri, he went to South India. And he had one servant, Kala Krishna Das. So they're in South India, and it's described that Lord Chaitanya, he was going around in South India chanting Hare Krishna. And people would hear him chanting, and they would become so inspired that they would go back to their village, and they would inspire the village people there to chant Hare Krishna. And in this way, Krishna consciousness was spread all over South India. And it's described that Lord Chaitanya, he would chant and dance, and tears would come from his eyes. And it's described that he was showering the minds of everyone with transcendental love of Godhead. And it's still going on, because people are getting Prabhupada's books. You know, so often, so many times, people come by me, great book you gave me, because we go like PB here, they get a book from me, and I see them a week later or so, and it's fantastic, So that Lord Chaitanya is still sprinkling the mind, purifying the minds by Prabhupada's books. Yeah. So, at one point, they were in South India, and there's these personalities down there called Bhattaharis, or gypsies. And what they would do is they would get these, they would have these girls that would lure people towards their camp. And somehow, they had lured Krishnadas to the camp. Early in the morning, they had taken him. So Lord Chaitanya, he found out. And he went to them. And they're supposed sannyasis. So Lord Chaitanya said, "You're a sannyasi, I'm sannyasi. Why are you taking my servant?" And as soon as he spoke like that, it's described that they came from different directions to attack him. So it's described that Lord Chaitanya, he grabbed Krishnadas by the hair and pulled him out of that camp. And he went running. And they went running after them with weapons to attack Lord Chaitanya. But the weapons somehow slipped out of their hands and were attacking them. Imagine the chaos. Yeah, like, how is that possible? Yeah. So then they're running all in different directions, just in chaotic. Imagine that. So Lord Chaitanya saved Krishnadas from that circumstance. And then when they went back to Jagannath Puri, he said, I have it written here. He says, when he got back, he said to the devotees, "Now that I have brought him here, back here, I'm asking him to leave. Now he can go wherever he likes. I am no longer responsible for him." So as soon as Krishnadas heard that, he started crying, lamenting that Lord Chaitanya was kicking him away. But the devotees, it's described that the devotees were more merciful than Lord Chaitanya, because Lord Chaitanya had just returned, and all the devotees in Navadvip, they wanted to know when he returns. So they deputed him, Krishnadas, to go there and tell all the devotees Lord Chaitanya had returned. So they asked Lord Chaitanya, "Lord Chaitanya, we would like to send someone to Navadvip to let them know that you've returned." And he said, "Yes, do as you like." They didn't say the name. So Krishnadas, he went to Navadvip and gave all this good news, and everybody was ecstatic to hear that Lord Chaitanya had returned. So he remained with the devotees, engaged in devotional service. And that's also there, mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Because in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that this knowledge should not be given to those who are envious of me, who are not austere, who are not engaged in devotional service, and who are not devoted to me. But we're distributing Bhagavad Gitas all over the world. Probably millions of them have been distributed. So Prabhupada...
2 million just in December.
Oh, is it? Oh, right. Exactly, 2 million just in December. So millions have been distributed. So why? Why are we disobeying the order of Krishna? In a purport, in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, I think text 29, Prabhupada explains that Krishna, he doesn't want devotees to approach non-devotees who are not interested, because he doesn't want them to waste their time. Yeah. See, this is the mercy of Lord of Krishna. He's so kind, he doesn't want the devotees to waste their time, dealing with atheistic people. But Prabhupada says, but the devotees are more merciful than Krishna because they understand the purpose of the Lord. So therefore they even approach people who are not interested in Krishna. to give them this message. So this is the devotees are very kind, very merciful. Of course, Krishna is very kind, but the devotees, just see, even more merciful. Now there was another instance where Lord Chaitanya, he went to South India. Or no, he went on another tour. He went to Vrindavan, to the Jarikhanda forest, with another devotee. What was his name? Balabhadra Bhattacharya. So they're going through Jarikhanda forest, and it's described that they're going through this forest, and there's tigers and boars, not dangerous boars, and there's elephants, and there's all these dangerous animals on the path. Deer. They're on the path, and all it's described that they just separated for Lord Chaitanya. And he just walked through them. And Balabhadra, he's like scared to death, So then they're going through Jarikhanda forest, and on the path it's described that there's a tiger, and Lord Chaitanya, he touched the tiger with his foot. And Balabhadra's like, oh, Lord Chaitanya, that's a tiger, And these are Bengali tigers. They're like the biggest tigers, the most dangerous tigers. So Lord Chaitanya told the tiger, chant Hare Krishna. So he started dancing and chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, I don't know how he chanted, but he was chanting.
Good job.
So Balabhadra, you can imagine, he was just like, flabbergasted. Like, how is this possible? So then they go on, and Lord Chaitanya, they come to a lake. And there's tigers and there's deer, and he's chanting Gayatri. And some elephants come, and he splashed water on them and says, chant Hare Krishna. So the elephants, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare, and they're dancing. It's described they're dancing. Imagine that. Big elephants dancing. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So Balabhadra Bhattacharya is just like, imagine that. Such ecstasy. So then they go on. Oh, right. The tigers are they're dancing, and the deer are dancing. They're all and it's described that they embraced. The deer and the lions, they embraced, and they're kissing. Now, generally we hear that Lord Chaitanya, he's a Channa avatar, covered avatar, but there's instances where he's not covered. Who else can get elephants to dance and chant Hare Krishna? Right? Dancing white elephants, yes. Prabhupada went to India, and he brought 30 devotees to India, and they're traveling around, and they would dance on stage. And Prabhupada called them his dancing white elephants. Yeah. It was the most amazing thing to see Americans and Europeans dancing, chanting Hare Krishna. Probably more amazing than dancing elephants. So they're going on this tour, and the goal was to go to Vrindavan, and they made it to Vrindavan. While they're in Vrindavan, Balabhadra Bhattacharya, he hears that Krishna has again appeared, and he's dancing on the hood of the Kaliya serpent out there, and it's big news. It's big news in Vrindavan there that he's again appeared. So Balabhadra Bhattacharya, he says to Lord Chaitanya at one point, "My dear Lord, please, can I have permission to go see Krishna?" He's appeared again. He's dancing on the Kaliya serpent's heads. So what did Lord Chaitanya do? Lord Chaitanya, he says, well, first of all, he slaps him. Gives him a slap, And then he says, you are a learned scholar, but you have become a fool, being influenced by other fools. So he chastised him there. He said, go see him another time. You know? Didn't give him permission. Then the next morning, it's described that some gentleman came. And Lord Chaitanya said, have you gone and seen Krishna there, dancing on the Kaliya serpent's head? He said, no, there's no such thing. There's a boatman out there, and he's got a lantern. Yeah. And the people think that the boat is the Kaliya serpent, that the lantern, that's the jewels on the head of Kaliya, and they think the boatman is Krishna. They're all fools. So Balabhadra Bhattacharya, he was there also. So he heard that people are being fooled. So this is a problem in India. Actually, Srila Prabhupada, at one point, he said that throughout the world, there are so many countries doing export business. India also, we're doing export. And our export is gods. Every couple months, another god is being exported out of India. Such cheating is going on. But Lord Chaitanya, whenever anyone would say that he's Krishna, what would he do? Vishnu, 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 and he would run away. Although he's God himself. Because he knew that so many people in this age of Kali would cheat. Yeah. They would cheat. Yeah. So we're very fortunate. Srila Prabhupada said, I have not come here to cheat you. I've come to give you the highest treasure of Krishna consciousness. So we're unlimitedly fortunate that we didn't get cheated. And even there are some that would come that wouldn't say they're God, but they would cheat. Yeah, I got cheated myself. Yeah. So many of us got cheated. Yeah, you just chant this mantra, and everything will be okay. But pay me some money. Yeah, such cheating. But Prabhupada came to let us know that if we just chant the Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. I was chanting this mantra by Mahesh Yogi that I paid for, $120, not recently. I only paid $120. You know how much it costs now? $1,500. I met this guy on Sankirtan. He said, I'm working all summer to get the money to get the mantra. I told him, keep your money. It's a scam. I got the mantra, it did nothing. You want a real mantra? Take this mantra, it's for free. I gave him the Hare Krishna mantra. He said, all right, thank you for that. I chanted my mantra, it got me nowhere. I chanted this mantra, and I'm like, this is a real mantra. Wait, here's a microphone. Here's the microphone. Here's the microphone.
I'm sorry.
Take your mask off.
In 1969.
Is it on?
Yeah, I guess it.
Is it on?
1969, it was only $30.
Oh yeah, in 69 it was $30, right? And Prabhupada would criticize it. And you do not have to pay me any money like these rascals. You're paying $35 or something.
But in meeting you, and you tried it and nothing happened, save your money, and then seeing you as a blissful, mature devotee, that's power.
I think he saved his money. Yeah. Such cheaters, you know.
Buy a Bhagavatam set.
Yeah. So there's a little time left, Is there any other questions? Is there any questions or comments, or would anybody like to say anything? Any of the senior Vaishnavas like to say anything more about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Yes, Prabhu. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So if you could, you were reciting the story of Kala Krishna Das and Naboga. You could tell the story of Chota Haridas, how he was also.
Oh yeah, Chota Haridas. Now it's interesting, very interesting. He had gone to get some boga for cooking for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So while Lord Chaitanya was eating, honoring prasadam, he says, "Who has brought this rice?" And devotee there said, "Oh, Chota Haridas. Tell him I don't want to see him again." So the devotees couldn't figure out why. What happened was he had gone to get the rice, and the person he had gotten the rice from was Madhavi, who was, there's 3.5 persons who were most dear to Lord Chaitanya. She was the half. She was the sister of Sikamihiti. Now she was elderly. So it's described that there was a young lady there whom Chota Haridas had lusted after. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's omniscient, so he knew that he had some lusty feelings towards this young lady there. So Lord Chaitanya is very strict. Very strict. When devotees heard this, everybody became very cautious. Very cautious. And this is something that we should also keep in mind, that we had to be, we're wearing saffron or sannyasi, we have to be very strict, because Lord Chaitanya, he doesn't tolerate, that. So yeah, we have to be strict in our Krishna consciousness. It's very difficult. Like I go to PB, Pacific Beach here, there's too many books, and women are walking around, 95% naked. Yeah, it's like so. You gotta really concentrate on the soul, beyond the dead body. Sometimes I think of things like this, just to keep the lust down. I think, well, if the skin was removed, if the skin was removed, you just have a bloody blob there. Yeah? So this kind of keeps my consciousness on the proper mentality. Maharaj wants to say something. Bring the microphone to Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
No, I just want, adding on to this, I was on a bus. Sasrupa Swami was visiting, and he had his traveling bus party, and we were all young men, householders, and brahmacharis, and some young lady came. She was absolutely, materially attractive, and everyone was, the temperature went up about 5 degrees in the bus, and everyone was kind of, and then when she left, Sasrupa Swami said, "Just remember, if you were a cow, she'd eat you." So that was kind of sobering.
Right, they're meat eaters. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, that was wonderful.
Thank you, Prabhu.
You asked what was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's wife's name. She had a daughter named Sati, S-A, long A and long I, S-A-T-H-I, and she was known as Satira Mata.
Satira Mata, okay.
That's her name. And you did like Maitreya Muni preaching to Vidura. You amalgamated the two Atmarama pastimes.
Oh.
With Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he had
right. Okay.
Sarvabhauma gave 8 explanations, and Lord Chaitanya said, "You're just like Brihaspati. No one could explain these things." He actually was Brihaspati, but glorified him in that way. But then later, Sarvabhauma said, could you please explain? So he doubled it. He gave 9 explanations. And then Varanasi, Sanatan Goswami had heard, I heard you gave some real nice purport on, could you please? And that's where he gave the 60.
Expanded it even more. Right. Thank you. Javita.
But one of my favorite pastimes is when Lord Chaitanya returns from a South Indian tour, and then all the devotees greet him there in Jagannath Puri, and then they come from so Srup Damodar came down from Varanasi, I believe, and he offered him this incredible verse about Lord Chaitanya's mercy. The word daya, mercy, appears 12 times in the verse. 12 times. Halo duna de daya, halo duna de daya, vsta daya, promiladamo daya, shamas chasta baba daya, vsta daya, chitarpaton ma daya, shaswad bhakti vino daya, sama daya, madhurya marya daya, Sri Chaitanya daya, nideta daya, bhuyadamando daya. O ocean of mercy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, let there be an awakening of your auspicious mercy, which easily drives away all kinds of material lamentation by making everything pure and blissful. Indeed, your mercy awakens transcendental bliss and covers all material pleasures. By your auspicious mercy, quarrels and disagreements arising among different scriptures are vanquished. Your auspicious mercy pours forth transcendental mellows and thus causes the heart to jubilate. Your mercy, which is full of joy, always stimulates devotional service and glorifies conjugal love of God. May transcendental bliss be awakened within my heart by your causeless mercy. And Prabhupada's first words of the purport, this important verse, you can read it at Madhya 10, 119.
Hari Bol, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Jai.